You're listening to Talk Star Wars, a proud member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Check us out on the web at starwarscommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world. Talk Star Wars is a production of Emotionally 14. For fantastic podcasts, video series, blog posts, and much more, visit us on the web at emotionally14.com and enjoy content for the permanently teenaged. Hello there, and welcome to Talk Star Wars, episode 178 from Emotionally 14 Productions. I'm your host, as always, Rob Wade, and I'm joined by my constant compatriot, the Chewie to my Han, the L3 to my Lando, Brad Harmer-Barnes.
Heyo, how you doing?
I'm good. Do you notice I upgraded you from
Yes, I had noticed. I got promoted, yeah.
Because L3, you know, entertaining enough.
Yeah, I like L3, fine.
Yeah. How you been? You good?
There's very few Star Wars characters I actively dislike.
Yeah, it's true, yeah.
Even the bad guys are good bad guys generally. There's not many characters immediately leap to mind as ones I go, no, not a fan.
Yeah.
Okay, now I've said that, I'm going to think of like 40, obviously.
They'll just pop into your head at random. This is how it works.
Yeah. On that note, I watched Phantom Menace the other day doing my timeline crawl.
Oh, yeah.
And have a scene where Annie's reworking on his pod racer. You get all his friends come over and heckle him a little bit, and he's got a little Rhodian friend comes along. And there's one kid who jumps up on the fuselage of a pod racer, and he goes, "Oh, good one, Annie. Come on, let's go play ball." And it needs to be said, he is the single worst actor in any Star Wars movie, and he doesn't get anywhere near enough stick for it.
I'd have to go back and watch it, but I can vaguely recall the one you made.
Okay.
Yeah. It's difficult, isn't it? Because child actors, when they excel, we don't shut up about it. I mean, the royal we, I guess. Because I don't remember me and you spending an episode devoted to child, like Emperor's Nest or anything like that.
No, we can't stop talking about how great the whole Stranger Things cast is.
I mean, they're pretty good. I mean, I've just been, funnily enough, that's odd timing, because I've just finished season 2 this morning on my way into work. And I mean, it was certainly a thing I watched. It was good. It didn't
I've
have
heard
the
it's
same
a bridge to the third one.
It does. It much like season 1. I would argue it can be cut off there and it's fine. Mm-hmm. But I see what people are saying. Like, now that season 3, I think it's the benefit of hindsight that now that season 3 is out, you can look back and go, oh yeah, I see. Season 2 was kind of leading into it, but it is, having not seen any of season 3 yet, obviously, because I've been catching up. Yeah. I felt like I could have stopped there. Not expecting if season 3 hadn't been announced at this stage, I'd be like, that was cool. I'm sure there'll be more, but you know, there's not like they did kind of resolve all the threads that I noticed. There may be other stuff, but
I've done the first series. It's just, as I've gotten older, it takes a lot for me to bother with sequels.
Okay.
As I find, some sequels are great. They are the minority.
It's good.
And,
I mean, it's not.
I got burnt with Dexter, which I think the first series of Dexter is astounding, and just everything after that feels like an unnecessary 1980s horror sequel.
Okay.
Yeah, as I've just said, that I love me some Friday the 13th, but in a different way.
Sure.
Because it's a little bit ropey.
Yeah, it's much like the holiday special. There's stuff to love about it from a comedic point of view, but you're not going to be sitting there going, it's the single best one out of the entire franchise.
Yeah, I think Friday the 13th also, it was a bit meta. It's a fact that they kept making them. Yeah. Made it almost a bit like a team sport. You were like, yay, another Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah. I was going to say, what I would say about Stranger Things season 2 is it is good, but I would say it doesn't have that same kind of, this is really, season 1 felt quite special. Yeah. I suppose partly because it was because of the tone and because of the setting and because of the sort of the suspense and horror kind of mix that was kind of struck nicely
really at the crux of that retro 80s zeitgeist, because synthwave music had just started getting big. We'd had Turbo Kid, we'd had Kung Fury, it kind of had that sort of Monster Squad type vibe as well. And Stranger Things was the lightning in a bottle, which has really kicked off that retro synthwave 80s zeitgeist that's happening at the moment.
For sure. I will say the music is just as good on the second series as the first, if not better, because it's still... I mean, I will say this, I watch it on Netflix because obviously that's where it is. All the shows I've ever watched, it's the only show I will not skip the intro because I want to listen to that music every damn time.
Yeah, I get
without fail.
Yeah,
it's just so good. It's just so good. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was, it wasn't. I would say it's not as strong as the first one, but I don't think by any means that makes it bad. Mm-hmm. It's a solid.
I've read some of the Age of Republic comics since the last time we spoke as well.
Cool.
And
I was on some of them.
They've been fine. The Darth Maul one was really good.
I think I've read that one.
Yeah, the Obi-Wan was. It was one of those. While I was reading it, I was like, "This feels kind of generic," and then the last couple of pages gave it a lot of weight. I'm
trying to think if I've read that one. I think I have. I've lost track because there's loads of them. It's
the first time Obi-Wan takes Anakin out on a mission with him, rather than leaving him behind at the temple.
I'm not sure.
No,
I can't think. The trouble is, at the moment, I've been just absolutely rinsing through comic books.
Yeah, fair.
So I found myself not really retaining them unless they really, really grab me.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think I touched on it a few episodes ago, the Stranger Things tie-in that kind of basically does Will Byers' story as the story goes.
Oh, yeah.
That's really cool. But then at the same time, part of the reason that sticks with me is because I remember the show alongside it. Whereas, obviously, the Age of Republic stuff doesn't have anything like that to anchor to. It's just, it just fills in the gap before episode 2.
Yeah.
Which there's quite a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's 10 years and need to fill in the stories to be told there.
For sure, yeah. I mean, it's definitely true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if there's much Star Wars in my... I read the second... I think, is it the Charles Soule Darth Vader, the Dark Lord of the Sith?
Yeah, I haven't read that yet.
I've read the second trade.
Quite a young Vader, isn't it? It's fairly soon after Revenge of the Sith it starts.
Very cool. Yeah. It's the one where they made a big thing of all the Jedi that survived Order 66. Mm-hmm. And it does, much like Legends, I do feel like every time they release a new thing in expanded canon, it makes Order 66 that little bit less effective.
I know what you mean.
Do you know what I mean? It feels like Vader can't mark that one off as complete. You know what I mean? It's like he hasn't quite finished. Yeah. It's just that.
We need Kylo Ren to finish what he started.
Well, clearly, I'm sure we'll touch on that in a bit because we did put the call out, and some of our more loyal listeners, and also I think some new folks as well,
some randos,
lots of lovely people obliged us by sending us in stuff to talk about. So because it has been a little bit of a slow week if you're not churning the rumour mill, which we don't really tend to because it gets just silly at times, I'm still thinking about the Ray Ishmi thing and still trying to work out how does that work?
I really think the best thing to do is to not think about it.
I think that's a really good piece of advice that I wish I could follow.
Yeah,
I've often the way with we've touched on the fact I wrote a short, almost like a sort of semi-memoir of my podcasting experience as a sort of how to and how to not.
And
thank you. I appreciate it. It hasn't sold many, but the people who've read it seem to really like it. So that's kind of cool.
That's good.
I'm good with that. But
totally.
I've always kind of toyed with the idea of the second book being called Rules for Life that I promise I'll follow one day. All the stuff that is really easy to say, and I agree with.
Sarcastic self-help books.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's an absolute dearth of self-help books that are unironic. So I feel like there's an untapped market in
totally
in books that are like I say, it'll be kind of like Rules for Life that I totally agree with, but I'm just no good at
quite busy.
To. So
I'd write a foreword for that. Well, I promise I would.
Or I'm just like, this is a great piece of advice, but at the same time, I've got a life, mate. It's just that kind of, maybe like analyzing Proverbs or something.
Yeah,
just looking into that sort of that world. But I don't know. That's it's one of those ones I've always. I say always. It's one of those ones I've toyed with when it comes to what could I write? What else could I write about? Mm-hmm. Anyway, speaking of writing,
let's teach some SW.
Yeah, speaking of writing, we've had a message from the ever faithful Vesuvi, Knight of the Commonwealth, who writes regarding last week's episode.
Okay.
Target has listed the release date for Season 1's DVD of Star Wars Resistance as August 20th. Will it be the same in the UK?
Will it?
I don't know, is the answer. I'm astonished you all haven't been able to legally stream it as yet. Cockney younglings are really missing out.
Us too.
Yeah, it's still, to me, I think I did see on Twitter around the time the DVD announcement dropped, a few people speculating that this is one of the first things that's going to make it as a Disney Plus exclusive, and that's why you can't get it now.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. As soon as I saw that, I thought, I could see them doing it. I really kind of don't want them to, because I would like the opportunity to own a hard copy. Well, I say hard copy, but I would like to.
To be honest, even if it is the UK release date, I won't be buying it because I know that Disney Plus is 6 months down the line.
Well, that's in the States. Whether it's actually going to make it to the UK within the year.
January, I heard.
They're saying January, okay.
That's the last I heard, yeah.
Well, I look forward to that if it comes to pass.
Yeah, that's the last I'd heard anyway.
Yeah, I would like that to be the case because obviously I don't want to wait too long for The Mandalorian. But at the same time, I have seen how these things go down.
Yeah.
And often they say, oh, yeah, no, it's totally timely, and it's actually like 3 weeks behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's in the modern world, it's very difficult to stay spoiler free.
Yeah,
I've been lucky with Stranger Things 3 that I've managed to stay spoiler free so far.
Yeah,
obviously now I'll get loads of DMs, but
it annoys me because if Britain really isn't that important, to Star Wars, why don't they sod off and shoot the film somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. So Pinewood's a popular destination for them. Mm-hmm. Even especially in the sort of in the Disney era, it does jar. This is it. It jars with the stuff, the
talent pool,
the talent pool,
behind the scenes, the location,
the technical stuff. Yeah, a lot of it is odd that they would kind of treat the customers of the UK
coming over here, taking our Hammer horror actors.
Yeah, I mean,
I make it 3.
That seems like I think probably about right. Yeah. So it's Lee, Cushing, and
Prowse.
Of course. Yeah. Okay. Nice. So Vesuvi continues. Here are some links you might enjoy commenting on. One concerning a rare moment from Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford's initial audition video, circa 1975-ish. Yeah, I mean, that's all I can really say about it. It's quite a
I think Mark Hamill posted it on his Instagram as well. I saw it.
Yeah, it's a sweet thing,
Yeah.
I can't really say much more than that. So then this one, again, questioning Rey's lineage and why her parents would be buried on Jakku if they were dropping her off there. So it's basically, it's because...
I'm jabbing at my tablet like an abject moron. It's not a hyperlink.
It should be.
All right, maybe I'm just... it's my fault for buying an Android, isn't it?
I'm on my computer, so...
Okay, it's working now.
Okay, cool.
What's from Esquire, well-known gentleman's magazine.
Yeah, indeed. So... I think I have a skim of this because I'm doing this kind of.
Okay, yeah,
we're doing it live. Now this is to give you an idea of a timeline of this is wonderful, right?
Yeah.
This is one of the best timelines I've ever seen from Reddit, right? Because there's 4 items on it.
Yeah.
3 of them happen inside. Sorry, 2 of them happen inside Force Awakens. They're all equally spaced apart.
Yeah.
So if you base it on that. Rey rescues. So number 3 is Rey rescues BB-8 from Tito. 10 minutes before that, she learns to pilot starships, which sounds about right. And then 10 minutes before that, a tiny Rey watches helplessly as the starship pulls away. She grows fast.
Yeah,
I will say. She grows fast. She learns fast. She's just brilliant, doesn't she?
Yeah. I like her.
Yeah. She's great. Yeah. I mean, I like Daisy anyway, so she seems like genuinely nice.
Yeah, she's welcome to come on the show anytime she wants.
Yeah, so...
I mean, she did My Dad Wrote a Porno, so it's not outside the realms of possibility.
Well, there you go, right? So, and we must be...
We're at least as popular as they are.
I would say that's fair to say. If you analyze things until
it's fair to say if you're wrong.
If you analyze things until reality doesn't matter, then sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so having a skim over, I can see where the discrepancy comes from, and I think this is one of those opportunities where JJ can retcon if he so chooses with some credulity.
Yep, totally.
The detail they pick up on is that Kylo Ren tells Rey her parents were junk traders, dead in the Pauper's grave in the Jakku desert. But of course, the ship we see stranded on Jakku is flying off Jakku.
Or it could just be going over the horizon to their grave.
Wouldn't that be amazing? If they just dump her with the childminder.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. To be fair, planets are big places.
They are. Right? Some are bigger than others, for sure. Yeah.
Exactly. So there's no reason why they couldn't just fly to the other side of Jakku, where it's a delightfully temperate climate, not an arid jungle, an arid desert jungle, an arid desert. Maybe it is a sort of temperate jungle.
Who knows?
Yeah, that's what I was meant to do. And my brain just went, nope.
Yeah.
No, you're going to look silly.
I'm in control now.
Yeah, you're going to be silly in a way that's on record. So I can see how they might use that to retcon stuff. And it makes sense, and that would be like, okay, I can see that's fair.
Yeah.
So yeah, this timeline is leaked from a Star Wars guide, apparently. Okay. And it says, a tiny Rey watches helplessly as the starship pulls away, marooning her on the unfamiliar world of Jakku. So what they're saying is that she wasn't born there.
Yeah.
And her parents aren't from there either.
She wasn't cloned from Shmi's lightsaber or any of the other theories that are doing around.
Well, it does mention the Palpatine theory again. Because obviously Jakku has that Jakku Observatory, it's apparently called. Okay. It's a part of the Emperor's contingency plan and housed a replica of the Emperor's yacht Imperialis. Is that the one that Lando steals in the comics?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, nice. Computers displaying a map of the unknown regions. That must be thrilling. It's just
it would be dragons.
Yeah, it's just
paper and battle dragons.
Just a big sheet of black paper.
Yeah.
Much is known about them, hence the name.
Bring back papes.
It'd be hilarious if you used to say, "Oh, that's just a name, actually."
Yeah,
it's actually a very well understood area of space.
It was discovered by Gavin Unknown,
Captain Steve Unknown. So it was tasked to Gallius Rax to look after it or to use it. He was foiled in the Aftermath trilogy, so
yeah,
there you go.
We'll do remember, yeah,
I'll take your word for it. Yes. So yeah, I can see how that would be used to retcon, and that would make a lot of sense and totally work.
It's a retcon I've always been fine with. To be honest,
that one is.
It was left either way, in my opinion, and clinging on to truths dependent on your point of view is a recurring theme of Star Wars.
Yes, indeed. As I say, I know we don't agree on this particular point, but at the same time, using stuff like that to pick it apart, I'm good with, because that makes sense. As long as it makes sense, I'm generally content. That's my rule of thumb, and it's served me pretty well for these past 35 years.
We both have our preferences of how it's going to play out, but we can understand ways it might not.
Yeah, exactly. And ultimately, I've come to accept over time that films aren't just made with me in mind.
No.
Because then you know what it was? It was the first time a film made a load at the box office, and I was like, well, I didn't spend that much on it. So,
to be honest, episode 9 can only disappoint me if it turns out that Han Solo survives by hiding in a fridge.
Yeah, indeed. Or John Hurt just turns up and starts mumbling. It's like, well, hang on.
Yeah. Wait, is he? Yeah. Is that Guy Henry again?
Must be. Vesuvi concludes, may your diet always consist of more than blustery extract. Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Vesuvi, Knight of the Commonwealth. Much obliged,
and
Vesuvi.
Yours also.
Yeah, indeed. And also with you.
He's a strange person.
It is a strange sign-off, but at the same time, I would rather she sign off strange than not write in at all, as always.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Vesuvi. Always a pleasure to hear from you. Our next message, speaking of pleasure to hear from people, we haven't heard from this gentleman in a while.
Is that?
But this one comes from a certain Mr. Mark G.
Never heard of him.
Well, I don't believe you.
Okay.
Because that's not true. Because obviously, Mr. G is the former Supreme Leader of Talk Star Wars.
Oh, yeah. There was an Infinite Crisis where I ended up coming in.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So Mark writes, hello there, gentlemen.
Hello.
I was listening to you discuss the wonderfully colourful wax crayon Darth Vader last week. You had me in stitches, by the way. Your reaction was priceless. I think he's talking to you there because I've had a lot of good feedback about your reaction in particular being
me just losing it.
Yeah, it was just the complete loss. I think a lot of people could relate to that.
Yeah,
and it got me thinking about Star Wars vintage action figures.
Okay.
Thanks to Robcast, Dan Solo, and Mark Airy. So, of course, Robcast, one of the other hosts on Talk Star Wars. Dan Solo, Tatooine Times on Twitter, I believe, who is a Knight of the Commonwealth. And Mark Airy, the former host of the TSW Toy Box and the host of the Blue Harvest Toy Podcast.
Yeah.
So, thanks to those three, I am now very, very deep into Star Wars vintage action figure collecting. In fact, this week I crossed a milestone and picked up the last figure I needed from the initial Star Wars Kenner run. That's a
nerd.
That is an impressive feat because I know that is not a small run and they're quite tricky to obtain.
Is it the Boba Fett with the backpack?
That is not the one. I think it's
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, he's still got. Yeah, sorry, I've read ahead.
I still have a few Empire and Jedi figures to go, but I'm thrilled to be getting somewhere. So here is my Star Wars vintage shaped hypothetical for you.
Right.
Hasbro have decided to release a vintage Kenner-style 12-figure run of collectibles, and you gents need to select which characters get immortalized in 3 3/4-inch plastic form. These will be 5 points of articulation with the limited, and let's face it, sometimes very poor sculpts in the style of the originals.
Brilliant.
That's 12 figures with vinyl capes, telescoping sabers, and clicking droid heads. Who do you choose from this for this limited run? You are free to choose characters from anywhere in Star Wars canon. Go. Have fun.
Okay.
You're doing great work as always, even in this veritable drought of Star Wars news. All the best, Mark. Well, that's very kind.
Thanks, Mark.
Right, so 12-figure run. Should we come up with a mutual?
Pen and paper?
Yeah, I got writing implements. So should we come up with like a mutual shared list?
Right. Well, let me do some mental arithmetic. If we ignore Clone Wars, there are 10 Star Wars movies.
Yep.
So let's do 2 from each movie, and then gives us 2 honourable spaces as well.
Oh, okay. I like that. No, I like that approach. Let's go for it.
Okay.
So 2-star. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. I was about to say, hang on, that's over 20. But then that's how 2 times 12 works, isn't it? All right.
And we've got there's 10 Star Wars movies, yeah.
There are 10, yeah. I'm good with. It was just I was going to originally suggest we come up with a mutual 12, but then if we 12 each,
well, then let's do 1 from each and it gives us 2 honourable mentions as well.
Yeah. Well, we may end up going. Actually, we got it. Yep. We nailed it. Okay. We agree on it because actually, I think one in particular, I think we're going to agree on entirely.
Blatantly.
He gave us a clue.
2. Yeah. So when we get to so if we go through the 10 movies and pick one single iconic character from each one that you'd like to see be given the Kenner treatment, or Hasbro, whoever it is. I'm not an action figure person.
Kenner, originally.
Kenner, okay, yeah. I had some as a kid, so I know what they look like.
Hasbro now.
And yes, Hasbro, because Hasbro. That's because all toy and gaming companies are divided into Hasbro and not Hasbro.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then we got our 2 honourable spaces. So who's the most iconic figure from Phantom Menace?
The problem with my initial reaction was Jar Jar Binks.
Really?
But 5 points of articulation doesn't actually sound like enough for him.
Does it? I'd have gone Maul before I said Jar Jar.
Okay. I mean, that's true. I mean, yeah. Maul might be good, actually. But again, for different reasons, it feels like 5 points of articulation doesn't get across the acrobatic skill.
No. So is this limited articulation having to be a factor in our decision?
It says 5 points of articulation.
Yeah, but we could still stylize it. I didn't realise we were going to have to look for people. We're going to go through movies and go, who looks like he's suffering from arthritis for most? Let's make an action figure out of him.
Because blockade can mean only one thing. 5 points of articulation.
Oh, man, my General Grievous is going to be crap.
I've been trained in your Jedi arts by Count Dooku, post-death. Didn't work out so well.
Yeah.
He was. I've been trained in your Jedi arts by Count Dooku, but he was phoning it in.
And I put my back out.
I'm a cyborg. Didn't even know I could do that. Who knew?
If we're looking for the most stoic, right? So the new game is the single most stoic, inflexible character from each movie gets a figure. Well, in which case, Phantom Menace has to be Chancellor Valorum,
of course,
because his action figures fly off the shelves anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's kind of you'd be forgiven for thinking that Chancellor Valorum himself was the most powerful force user in the galaxy. By the fact his action figures fly so fast off the shelves. I think they're being projected using the telekinetic. Yeah. Telepathic abilities wouldn't get much done. They'd convince you it flew, but actually nothing had happened.
Okay, so that brings us episode 2.
Whoa, hang on. Whoa.
Valorum.
I don't think. Well, all right, fine. I was going to say potentially Panaka, because I don't think he needs a lot. He doesn't need a lot.
Or C.O. Bibble.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like a blockade can mean only one thing.
Now I'm making it tough. So I think
articulation.
Ben Quadrineros.
Ben Quadrineros with 5 points of articulation. I like it just for the fact that it's a name that almost says 4, and then 5 points of articulation.
I've managed to pick a character who hasn't got a neck.
Solid lump and 4 arms. Brilliant. What does he? I'm not even sure where the fifth. Dare we ask where the 5th point of articulation is on that particular chap? Man,
it's horrendous moduloc.
That is.
That's right, kids. That's a She-Ra joke from me.
Why not?
I don't know. I feel like Valorum is probably the most custom for that 5 point of articulation, which is what we've somehow become focused on.
I cannot wait for this run, like the advert that has to accompany it.
Do you like serious spinal problems? You'll have the latest series of Star Wars figures.
Do you like people who the entire role in the first film is to just sit down looking sad?
Legacy of Sciatica collection.
Yeah. Do you like figures for whom the main point of talking is when somebody else whispers in their ear? Do you like figures that are a massive waste of Terrence Stamp? Because we love them.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say...
As my cupboard of Zod will attest.
He's at least been Superman in some comics. All right, so episode 1, we're going for Valorum, locking it in.
Okay.
Brilliant. Right. Number 2.
So episode 2, for most inflexible, boring character.
What's the name of the guy who sells death sticks?
Dex.
Oh.
Evan Sleazebagano.
The Sleazebagano, yeah.
Yeah.
What about him?
He does just sit down looking sad.
Yeah. Yeah, this is
man,
it.
We've got a pattern now.
5 points of 5 points of misery. The collection, the TSW collection,
the Legacy of Dejection series.
Talk Star Wars: The Edge of Ennui. I love you.
I'm quite fond of you too.
Oh dear! All right.
Just imagine someone getting this for Christmas.
I know. Oh, you got me the entire run of. Right.
Legacy of Dejection.
What if? Hang on. What if the first 3 are just different permutations of Newt Gunray? You get episode 1 Newt Gunray, you get episode 2 Newt Gunray, you get the detachable episode 3 Newt Gunray. The extra point of articulation is in the torso.
Sitting down with dejection action figures. The mail away can be Shannon McRandall's agent.
Oh, man. Our Master of the Universe set's lit as hell as well.
Yeah. Episode 3.
Episode 3. Hang on, what we decided for episode 2?
I thought we said Sleazebagano because he sits down looking dejected.
Sleazebagano, all right, cool.
Episode 3.
Trouble is, the person who sits down looking the most dejected is probably Bail Organa in episode 3. But I think he's too.
He's too cool.
He's too cool for our collection, I feel.
I think they kind of bow looking dejected. Is he? It's Palpatine.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
It's kind of. Is he to be bringing more of a maiden?
Yeah. He didn't say. but you can with 5 points of articulation.
Yeah, Yoda sits down looking dejected.
Yeah, but then he's almost too cool for this, I feel.
Yeah.
Like
I still feel...
There's an ethos thing that I feel is lacking with this one.
I really does bother me that it's not addressed in episode 3. There are 2 Wookiees that see Yoda jump up and decapitate 2 clone troopers with no context to them whatsoever.
And have never actually...
No, it's
like,
just
gone, yeah, that's...
Maybe we should just do what he said.
Yeah, what do we do now? Like,
yeah,
because
I guess we follow him.
Why has he just done that for? Do you want to ask him? I don't want to ask him. All right, fine. Let's just go with what he says. Fine, done. Chewbacca seems to trust him. That's always a good sign, right?
Yeah, he seems trustworthy.
Yeah, exactly.
Episode 3.
Episode 3.
For the first act, Palpatine's already sitting down looking dejected.
I do like the Palpatine pre-Sidious reveal moment idea. So, like, not where he's acrobatic in any way.
Or someone I'd buy it for, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I love the idea that you could have an entire prequel running theme of so many characters who don't do much. And you could just have multiple instances of the same one over and over again. It's tremendous.
Obviously the iconic, now meme-worthy, sitting down being dejected in episode 3 is Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, do you know what? Done.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And he accompanies the pull-out doll who only asks about the droid attack on the Wookiees no matter how many times you pull the cord. All right, episode 4. Actually, do you want to do chronological order, in which case Solo's next?
Okay, all right, yeah, Solo, who's our most dejected. I'm wondering if this one we should just do someone completely incidental.
I was thinking Clint Howard's robot wrangler.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
I forget his name, though.
I think he's just called Clint Howard.
Yeah, I think he's credited as just himself.
Yeah, that's himself.
Plays himself,
one of the few actors to have done Star Wars and Star Trek.
Oh, okay. Who's he in Star Trek?
He's in an episode of the first series of the original series when he's only about 9 or 10 in it.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Bless. All right, so for Solo, Droid Man. Because some of the Kenner figures had like vague and unconvincing names, right? Like Walrus Man. So we could just have Droid. We could just have Droid
obviously, Man. What their characters were referred to by the people on set, rather than giving them proper names.
Do you know? Actually, instead, I'm going to think of it from the point of view of he's a promoter of fights with a robot theme. I'm going to call him Robot Don King.
Okay.
I just like the idea of a robot Don King. I can't think of anything I want more now. Maybe that's my next crowdfunding enterprise. Rogue One.
I have a correction to make on the fly. Clint Howard was only 7 in his first episode of Star Trek. But he has actually appeared in the original series, Enterprise, Deep Space Nine, and Discovery as 4 separate characters.
Wow. I thought you were going to say, I have a slight correction to make. It's actually 3 points of articulation when you start again.
Yeah, I mean, the Anakin for episode 3 is fine, but after that, we're all problematic.
Right, Rogue One, I feel like we should break this convention we've been setting for ourselves. He mentioned vinyl capes. We've got to go Krennic.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that would be the standout one.
Yeah, Krennic would be the one. He would be the chase.
Yeah, he does look dejected a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's true. He spends a lot of time cross.
Well with others.
No, he spends a lot of time cross.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that one's easy enough. Rogue One, done. Episode 4.
I mean, Uncle Owen sits down looking dejected a lot.
That's true, yeah. Although I feel like we could do something for representation here. Maybe have Beru instead, because she looks dejected in the same scene. Yeah. And I feel like so far it's a bit of a sausage fest. I
mean, she's unhappy. Because their main job is putting food into a colander.
Yeah, this is true, yeah. Which, I mean, you feel like that would have...
Or as the French say, la colander.
This is a widely believed fact. Episode 5. I mean, if we're not doing Lobot, I feel like we missed a trick.
Does he ever sit down?
Oh, do you know? Now I don't know. It's in a deleted scene, I think.
Which
is ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah.
He only gets to take a load off his feet off screen.
I've always thought it's weird. It's actually quite hard to mentally picture Darth Vader sitting down, but he actually sits down quite a few times throughout the series. It's just your mind blanks when you try and picture it.
That's true. Yeah, it's like obviously he has to sit down in his little chamber on the. I say it with. I realise as I'm saying it that it sounds incredibly condescending.
Yeah,
like,
he's in a little chamber.
He's in a little chamber. Bless your heart.
Can you smell potpourri? No, you can't smell, can you?
Oh no, it's burning. Same as always.
Also on Cloud City, when they come in, he stands up.
Yeah, exactly. So he's obviously been sat down.
But if you just mentally picture him trying to use a computer at the library, it looks weird in your head.
I mean, there's so many reasons for that.
Probably because he's sitting on a cloak.
Yeah,
he's awkwardly getting up.
I feel like it's I feel like it's not just the fact that he's sitting at a computer in a library that's weird in that mental image. I feel like what's he possibly looking for? Battlefield dressing, like Battlefield medicine, I guess.
Covers.
Yeah. So, good one. I'll add to card.
For next time.
Save for later.
What do you mean they can just fly directly into it?
Yeah, save for later.
Which Darth Vader's Amazon wish there's an E14 article waiting to happen.
Yeah, indeed. I've just ordered one. Why would you recommend me more?
Yeah. Box set of Natalie Portman movies.
Yeah. Now we're talking.
Episode 4. We're going for Baru.
Baru for episode 4.
Empire.
If this is your first episode, I mean, it just goes on like this.
I feel for Piet.
Okay, let's you know what?
He's dejected, but he's also quite happy to be alive.
Let's add him into the mix. Episode 6.
And if he gets an accessory, it can be Jeremy and a cup of coffee.
That works. I like that.
Okay. Yeah,
that's nice. And that's, it brings it full circle in a way. Yeah. In a weird way.
Yeah.
What about episode 6? So for Jeremy.
Scout troopers were sitting down and not paying attention when their speeder bike stole them.
Random Ewok.
Yeah.
And it's actually on the cover that way.
Yeah.
Like Walrus Man. Just Ewok of choice.
Steve Ewok, yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think who else is there. I mean, Mon Mothma hasn't had enough love.
Bib Fortuna's got a cape.
Bib Fortuna has got a cape. This is true. And I do seem to recall because I did have a vintage Bib Fortuna at one point. I obviously got rid of it since then, but I say obviously, but I did. It's not that obvious, I guess, in the context of the conversation we're having.
I was watching Jedi the other day. Well, my daughter was watching that.
You were just there.
I was doing adult stuff, or she was watching not adult stuff, but you know what I mean. Well, she was watching it, and
that you are shameless.
Yeah. Well,
did you call that line again?
If I was doing housework, then you immediately mentally picture the video for "I Want to Break Free."
I do that all the time anyway. You know this. I love that song.
And there's a bit during like the siesta sequence at Jabba's palace.
Yeah,
they've added a Doug in just walking past.
Oh right.
Must be done for the Blu-ray. So it's obviously special edition was pre-Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
But it's not Sebulba, but he's a Doug. It really struck me as quite jarring.
I like when there's little bits of foreshadowing kind of in the mix, because that's like the kind of thing where, George Lucas has probably got this cool design already for Phantom Menace. He's like, you know what? Let's put one of these in and kind of sow the seed for later.
Yeah.
But like I say, I like when he does that stuff. I think it's really cool because it makes the world feel kind of connected. But it's also minor enough and vague enough that it doesn't make the world feel small, because it's not necessarily Sebulba just because it's a Doug.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I kind of like that's the kind of stuff. That's the kind of level of George.
It's obviously established they speak Huttese anyway and have dealings with the Hutts, so it makes perfect sense. Yeah,
they probably spend a fair bit of time on Tatooine in general. They're obviously there in he's in the Bunta Reef, and he's well known enough that, like I say, it could be him.
I mean, how many points of articulation would EV99 need?
From my recollection, because I think I had EV99 as a vintage, not many, because he did he had a solid neck.
So it just needs one.
Yeah, true. Yeah. I feel sorry. It's the Beaumont Monk.
Just package, just a wall with a ball coming out.
Yeah, it's the Beaumont Monk spiders I feel sorry for, because they won't get a look in this. These criteria.
Not at all. They should have bought a cape in, shouldn't they?
This is a good point. I mean, that's good advice for all of us, to be honest. You want to get taken seriously, own a cape.
Yeah. Mendelssohn's Law.
This is it. I like that as a just have that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are we saying for 6?
I'm in Dengar. He's in Jabba's palace.
Is he?
Yeah. He's in background shots. Yeah.
All right, done. You know what? Even if he's not, let's just have it.
Yeah.
Let's just have stuff that makes no sense at all. Like a Luke Skywalker action figure with the Solo branding.
When Luke gets thrown to Rancor Pit and we all kind of crowd around, you can see Dengar quite clearly in the foreground.
Oh, cool. Nice. Yeah. All right. Excellent.
Unless that's a Blu-ray change, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Is the answer.
Yeah, but that'll mystify a couple of podcasts wondering why Dengar's branded for Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we like to troll each other.
Well, indeed. That's kind of been our thing for some time.
So what's after that would bring us on to...
7. Force Awakens.
7, yeah. Who sits down and looks dejected? Tito?
Tito, I was thinking Tito.
Yeah.
And maybe because it's in our head from earlier.
Yeah.
From the earlier timeline. But I feel like if we're choosing figures based on an article we read on the day...
Yeah, that's niche.
It is, isn't it? It is a bit. What about Unkar Plutt?
Yeah. Deleted scene on Unkar Plutt would be good.
That would be good, because you not only do you have 5 points of articulation, you have 2 points of detachment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Unkar Plutt,
Love it.
done.
Yeah.
And also, you get value for money on the plastic there as well, because it'd be quite dense.
Or you could use the vinyl cloak material just as folds.
Oh. What? I don't want it anymore. Not only do I not want it anymore, I don't want it anywhere near me.
Fine.
Yeah.
Last Jedi.
Last Jedi.
Hux?
I think, do you know, I have a Hux as an action figure, and I feel my life feels that little bit better for that.
I love Hux. He's not getting enough.
He doesn't get nearly enough love.
No.
A lot of people give a lot of stick to his speech in Force Awakens. I think it's fantastic.
He's brilliant. Yeah.
I think it's absolutely fantastic. He just spits venom with every word he says in that speech.
Yeah.
It's just that whole rousing thing about the fierce machine that you have built. And he just you can see he gets all this buy-in from the people around him.
My issue with that seems more of a set design being a bit overblown. His performance is superb.
Yeah. I know what you mean. It's like, we get it.
We get
They're
it.
kind of an analog for...
We get it. It's Nuremberg. We get it.
Yeah, we get it. It's authoritarian. You don't need to literally be Nazis in space.
Yeah. Iron Sky's got that sewn up.
Yeah, exactly. They've already got that covered. And let's be fair. The box office juggernaut that Iron Sky was, you don't need to touch it. It's been done. All right. So we're saying Hux for this one, yeah?
Yep, that sounds good to me.
Sounds
also
good.
Just confuse people if there's one really standout character in the mix.
Okay, so that's our 10, and then we need another 2. We get 2 wild cards.
Honourable dejected ones.
Yeah.
Well, is Pelion back in canon yet? Because if not, he's probably a bit dejected.
No. Price is in there. Governor Price. She's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Let's go for Governor Price.
All right, yeah.
That works. And then I feel like she looks dejected in places as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, okay.
Indeed.
Caretaker?
Oh. No sitting down, but they look dejected
They
pretty
do.
much constantly.
Understandably.
And they are responsible for some of the best.
Oh, some of the best bits of Lost Jedi.
Yeah. Let's just have miscellaneous caretaker. I like it.
Okay. So what's our complete list for Mark's action figure collecting checklist?
Mark, you can look forward to the Talk Star Wars Kenner Run in stores near you. You can buy Chancellor Valorum, Sleaze Bagano, Kiadi Mundi, Robot Don King, Krennic, obviously, Aunt Beru, Admiral Piet, Dengar from Return of the Jedi, Unkar Plutt, General Hux, Governor Price, and a random caretaker. And if that's not the list you had in mind when you pitched this question to us, why?
Make sure the packaging for Dengar says "as seen in Return of the Jedi." Just to really,
yes, all of these.
Yeah,
I would buy at least 3 of those.
Yeah,
and it would all be Krennics, but
yeah, and your mail away is a choice of Shannon McRandall's agent or Troy Denning.
Both looking sat down and dejected for obvious reasons. So our next message came from Twitter via Tune Styles, which is a podcast. Which
podcast.
If you like podcasts called Tune Styles, then it's the best one you can hope for. I'd love to hear your thoughts on if you think The Mandalorian will be better or worse than The Rise of Skywalker. Yes, I know one's a show, one's a movie, but these are this year's big 2 Star Wars related projects. It is comparing apples and oranges, but at the same time, you can have a preference of fruit.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say it's apples and oranges so much as would I prefer a fruit I have never seen nor tasted, or a fruit I have never seen nor tasted.
I mean, for me, that's a lot of fruit.
Yeah, well,
we
can't all eat beef, Rob.
I am 2019's most bizarre scurvy risk.
I don't know. That's really hard to answer because to me, it's what's going to be better, something you haven't seen or something you haven't seen.
Which one are you looking forward to more? Which one do you kind of most intrigued by, I guess? 9, absolutely. Okay. Because it's the culmination of an ongoing series. Mandalorian is, I guess, more of a curiosity item to me because it's the first time they've done anything like this. And I suppose because by virtue of it being part 3 of the trilogy, I have more to go on for episode 9 than I do for Mandalorian, which is apart from the fact it's got a Mandalorian and it is still very much under wraps. Yeah. I'm going to say I agree broadly, but at the same time, I actually feel that the mysterious elements of the Mandalorian... Mysterio's in it. Yeah, Mysterio. The wrestler, it's weird. Isn't that weird? I guess. I don't know. I mean, if he's it might be in a costume or something, I guess. Yeah, I mean, he does that a lot. No, I was thinking like the mystery of the Mandalorian being an unknown quantity is kind of what intrigues me the most. Okay. Because, you know, we know roughly what to expect from a Star Wars movie. Like, we know some of the beats it might hit. We know some of the set pieces. We know the music. Yeah. That's an important piece of it. Like, the music is... predictable is the wrong word, although I would say the sequel trilogy is probably the closest John Williams has come to derivative. It feels like a sort of greatest hits. The Last Jedi, I would agree. I think there was a lot of brilliant new stuff in Force Awakens. I can't say I agree on that, but Last Jedi, I think, is a bit of a greatest hits. That seems fair. Yeah, I mean, Force Awakens does have more original music. I do think it kind of borrows from some of the themes quite heavily. Okay, but then at the same time, like you say, they do something new with it. So there's that. Mm-hmm. But I do think Last Jedi, and you kind of touched on it, is like a greatest hits of John Williams, and that's fine because I mean, you know, I love a greatest hits as much as anybody, and if you like the music, it doesn't really matter if it's a greatest hits or not because you know. What is your favorite Star Wars soundtrack? I feel like, in terms of overall soundtrack, it might be Rogue One. I really like the Revenge of the Sith or Rogue One for me. Yeah, I like Revenge of the Sith. It has some really, really standout stuff. I think the problem is just like Rogue One for me has the more consistent overall tone, even though it's like Revenge of the Sith has some loads of really good, like a few really good ones, and then some that's just kind of like it's also there. That's kind of how it feels to me. I think Revenge of the Sith, the battle pieces are generic Star Wars, but the standout atmospheric pieces are amazing. Yes, that's a good assessment. Battle of the Heroes is outstanding. Sure, that's a good assessment, I think. Rogue One's up there. I really like Jedi because I remember. I wonder if I wonder if it's partly because of all the Super Star Wars games, I played Return of the Jedi probably the most. So I heard a lot of the music a lot. Okay, yeah, and I also spent a lot of time banging my head against certain levels. So you know, that sort of thing is going to kind of it's indelible in my brain to a point now. Certain themes, and I mean, obviously, it's got the space battle music, which is awesome. But yeah, I think the unknown quantities of Mandalorian is one of the reasons I'm actually quite excited for it. Okay, and I think they've never done a live action TV project on Star Wars, and that excites me. But we don't talk about it. Live action TV, as in a serial. Sorry, a series. That's fine. No, they've done live action TV. This is true. Yeah, we shouldn't speak about that because it's best watched with a group. Just imagine your granddad doing that at the dinner table. I try not to. Mostly because he's dead. Well, yeah. 23 years. But yeah, I think of the two, Mandalorian intrigues me more. I feel like it has the potential to... I wonder if maybe the reason Rise of Skywalker Rise of Skywalker will probably be a more enjoyable experience in terms of going through it, but I think The Mandalorian might resonate with me more long term.
Oh, yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah.
I could see me coming back to The Mandalorian more often, I think.
Yeah, whereas like Last Jedi I've seen a couple of times, but I've never really found myself, when there's Star Wars to watch, when there's opportunities to watch Star Wars and I'm in the Star Wars mood, I tend to go for other films before Last Jedi.
Yeah.
I suppose Mandalorian will have the advantage of, for a time, it will be, if I fancy live-action Star Wars, that will be the only one worth doing. Until, the Cassian series, maybe Star Wars characters will turn up in Winter Soldier and Falcon, who knows. There's going to be a period of time where if you want live-action Star Wars on TV projects, like a longer sort of short-form episodes over a longer period, Mandalorian's going to be your lot.
Yeah.
So I can see it gaining some sort of, it'll have an opportunity to build up a sort of what's the word? It's not a cult following, but it kind of is to a point, I guess, because it'll be people who are willing to not only watch Star Wars but also subscribe to Disney Plus.
Yep.
Especially the even smaller demographic who are doing it solely for Star Wars.
Well, I don't know. There's the low-key TV series.
Yeah, and there's, like I say, there's WandaVision, which, I mean, if it's the, of all the things, when you sit there and think about what would improve The Odd Couple, if one was formed from an Infinity Stone, that'd do it for me.
Yeah, totally.
I've always wondered how that would improve the Odd Couple experience. So our next message comes from Skinny878 on Twitter, who goes by I think the Sci-Fi and Fantasy Reviewer. Oh
yes, yeah, great site. He's a writer as well.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
He
writes alternate histories just as a short story turn up in a compilation.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So Skinny asks, what is it about Wedge Antilles that made him such an enduring minor character? Or enduring, sorry. Well, I suppose you could argue both. Would you like to see him appear in Episode 9 in a cameo, or would you prefer to see a continued or rebooted Rogue Squadron book series?
What is it about Wedge Antilles that makes us an enduring minor character? He is the anti-red shirt. He is a minor character who has no real narrative impact, but survives against the odds anyway, which makes him intriguing and interesting enough in and of itself. I think it's because Wedge is the sort of character that you feel like maybe you could be if you were genuinely in the Star Wars universe. He's heroic without necessarily being the main character who the entire galaxy winds up revolving around. So it's an attainable thought. It's rather than like if someone said to you, oh, what would you like to be? You wouldn't say, oh, I'd be a red shirt, but you might say, I want to be Wedge. I think I could be a fighter pilot or something like that. So he's almost like an attainable form of aspiration, if that makes sense. I think that's what makes him identifiable.
Interesting.
That's my take on it anyway.
Yeah.
What's your answer to the first one?
I don't know. I think what makes him enduring? I mean, he destroys the second Death Star. That's a pretty big piece.
I mean, 9 helps, but yeah.
Yeah, but what I mean is he's involved to the point of he's part of the team that goes in and manages to make it out.
Yeah.
I think the canon, the legends now, but the additional books fleshed him out significantly.
Yes,
to great effect. I was always a Page guy. I liked Page as a cool character. But I think that was one of those things that really did him a lot of service. Was the expanded universe kind of developed him out, fleshed him out quite a lot.
Yeah.
And again, his life was, he was never in the foreground of the story, the Rogue Squadron stuff notwithstanding, I suppose. But even then, he wasn't the only focal character.
No.
He was kind of always in the mix.
There's a strong ensemble cast with the Rogue Squadron and Rogue Squadron novels.
Yeah, but he was there in the mix always. He was a consistent presence. Maybe I think that's a bit of it as well. He's a consistent presence. He's not just he doesn't just turn up. He's not a Deus Ex Machina. He's not a he's not a MacGuffin. Any of that. He is just a consistent thread throughout.
It's always felt to me like Stackpole must have gone, who's a character I can have that I can do absolutely anything with and you won't complain? It's almost like LucasArts went, Wedge?
Yeah.
And he absolutely ran with it.
Sure, yeah. Until Corran Horn kind of picked up steam.
Yeah.
And he's fine.
I like Michael Stackpole and I like Corran Horn. I don't like Michael Stackpole writing Corran Horn.
Right. It feels like a fan creation.
Yeah, he's too attached to him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, I guess with Timothy Zahn with Mara Jade as well, I guess. She always found a way to turn up in his stories.
Yeah.
In fact, he wrote one that was just about her.
Yeah, that bugs me less for some reason. I think it was Mara Jade would turn up and be involved in the story. Often with Stackpole was writing Corran, certainly in something like I, Jedi, it felt like he was kind of barging into the forefront.
Right.
Certainly in like the only bit of I, Jedi where he basically retcons him into Kevin J. Anderson's Jedi Academy trilogy.
Yeah.
And there he is helping Luke Skywalker out with Jedi business. Like, that's Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, he has the command of
sit down and look dejected. You don't get to. Sometimes it was all you could have just replaced the word Corran Horn with Player One was what it felt like at times.
Yeah.
But not always. Like I said, I love Stackpole as a writer and I love Corran Horn, but sometimes it went too far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
Wedge, that's not to say always.
It feels like Wedge didn't get that problem.
No, absolutely not. I think it was Stackpole was very attached to Corran Horn as he was a player character almost. I think was the issue. Would you like to see Wedge appear in Episode 9 in a cameo?
I can see.
I want him in a pivotal role.
You want to be able to make a dejected action figure
in an X-wing. Well,
yeah,
what are you going to do?
cool.
You're going to have him sat in the X-wing being Wedge? If he's going to be in it, make him important.
I don't necessarily know that you need to do that. Like, you need to have him front and center in the story. I think you can have him in the mix. You know, if there's a celebration at the end or something like that, just establish that he's still around.
Yeah.
Maybe not as active as he used to be because obviously, you know, he's older.
Yeah, my understanding is Dennis Lawson was asked to do a cameo in Episode 3 and turned it down, and he was asked to come back for Force Awakens and turned it down. I don't think he resents Star Wars. I don't think he dislikes Star Wars. But I get the sense he gets a bit of satisfaction from being the guy who says no to Star Wars.
That's fair. And I mean, also to say, if he just feels like he's done everything he needs to do with it, then fine. Yeah. You know, there's nothing.
And he has, he's one of these guys who's had a very successful career outside of Star Wars.
Yes.
As well. He's one of the 3 Star Wars characters who've had very successful careers in Casualty and Holby City, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's antagonistic. I think he just gets a bit of smug satisfaction out of it.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
I mean, he's allowed to because he's Wedge.
Exactly. And this is the funny thing, isn't it? We always come back to this, but he's allowed because Wedge.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
You don't say that about Jansen.
No. Porkins. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, Porkins did have time to get attached.
Continued or rebooted Rogue Squadron book series. I almost felt that was what we were going to get with Alphabet Squadron.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, obviously, that's not kind of how the story pans out so much.
I don't know we'll get an ongoing book series like... I mean, I think Rogue Squadron in the end, it was 9 books for the longest time, and they did a 10th book several years afterwards. Mercy Kill came, but that was a long old time, and I think that was Aaron Alston's last book as well, wasn't there? I don't think at the moment the marketplace is right for those long series of books. Certainly all the time the films are still in relatively frequent production. We're not going to see 9-book series. We're not going to see New Jedi Order running for 50 million books, however long that run for in the end.
I think it was 14, maybe even more.
It was a long old series, but it, to be honest, I think it was the right length for the story.
Yeah,
but was. I don't think the market is right for that at the moment.
When there's less to choose from.
All the books they've done so far have been single titles, apart from Aftermath, which was a trilogy. And I think Alphabet Squadron is going to become a trilogy as well, from what I've heard.
I know they've certainly set it up in a way that they could do a second one. It would make perfect sense.
Yeah. I don't think there's a market for a series of books at the moment. It's you get a series of books, but they tend to be smaller press ebook series that almost put out like old school penny dreadfuls.
Yeah.
It's, they're 99p or they're on Kindle Unlimited for a series of novellas almost. And that's great. I know a lot of artists and writers who work that way and have a good readership. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it is not something I believe Star Wars will want to do because it looks lower market than Star Wars will want to be perceived as.
Okay.
And just because I'm not putting down anyone who does that, it's just a totally different approach and a totally different market. It's like it's Episode 9 and Mandalorians. You can't compare them.
No.
So thank you. So this, glad you agree. I don't think the market's right for the moment. If the movies stop again, and there are fans who do want more stories, which is what caused the expanded universe, was there was fan demand for it. Then 5 years down the line, maybe we will start seeing ongoing series of novels or novellas or ebooks. But I just don't see that all the time. That the movies, and to a lesser extent the TV shows, are in rapid production. Yeah,
I think you're right. I think it's going to be when there's a bigger gap between stuff. Yeah. And I think actually TV is going to do a lot of the job of filling that gap as well.
Yeah, I don't think it will replace novels, but there's a different approach is required.
Well, I think it just means there's going to be. What I mean more is like you pointed out, the reason that the expanded universe gained steam was because there was a lack of Star Wars content and a desire for more stories. If the TV is filling that gap, there's going to be less demand because that need is being filled in another medium. Well,
this is it. Kind of New Jedi Order onwards. I'm talking about Legacy of the Force and
Swarm War.
Yeah, all that stuff. People were consuming that like it was a soap opera. It was an ongoing thing. And as you say, if TV's filling that gap, then the books will have to evolve and do something different. And it won't be better. It won't be worse. It will be different. Yeah. And that should be embraced. We should move with the times and just kind of go with what works for the time period. Also, if that makes sense. Otherwise, we're going to end up stuck in the 90s.
Yeah.
And no one wants that apart from Lost Del Rio because that's where they made all their money.
Well, we have gone through that 80s kitsch, so there will be a point where we cycle into the next decade.
I will put on my tracksuit and dance to Wigfield. But
what, is this like a way of summoning it?
Ceremonial right to bring back the 90s.
That is peculiar.
Yeah,
and I'm a little concerned.
Yeah, the furlong's coming back. So
still, it satisfies my curiosity that you still have the tracksuit.
And the best of Wigfield, one track on loop.
I was going to say that single, yeah.
I did see the best of Kim Wilde in a record store once, and I wouldn't have minded, but it was a double CD. It's literally Kids in America and the cover of Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree. That's it. That's Kim Wilde's discography.
And that's fine. I mean, they're perfectly enjoyable songs.
Two CD best of. That's an hour and a half of the same two songs on loop. Kim Wilde, if you're listening, sorry.
I'm sure you do. Kim Wilde, if you're listening, obviously we're being flippant. I'm sure you've done other stuff. Also, we'd love to know more about why you're listening because I have many questions.
And if you or Daisy really want to come on a show, then that's fine.
Absolutely. And if you've got ideas for the Sitting Dejected collection available in stores soon, then fire them over.
I can coming back to.
If you get an email from Kim Wilde this week, I'm going to lose it.
Why wouldn't you?
Indeed,
to come back to the final question, could I see it as a rebooted one? I could see it as a comic. Like for Rogue Squadron comics, they did a series of miniseries, and those were great. That would work.
I could see that going. I could see them going that further because comics have been given much more of a more love in the Disney era.
Yeah, give it to someone up and coming who's willing to take a bit of risk and be a bit high octane, a bit like a 2000 AD. To be honest, I actually think CM Punk's probably a really good comic writer for.
Yeah, he might suit that well, actually.
Rogue Squadron, yeah. I was never that much of a fan of him as a wrestler, but I've enjoyed his comics I've read.
Okay.
I think Rogue Squadron as a comic could work because that was almost what the Poe Dameron series did. Mm-hmm. It was very Wraith Squadron in feel. Yeah. And I think there's certainly still enough fan interest in the Galactic Civil War era.
For sure.
I'm talking Revenge of the Sith up to the Battle of Jakku, really. Yeah. There's certainly enough fan interest in that era still.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's fair to say. In terms of, could they go down the route of, I realize it'd be a bit of a tricky sell, but I know that there's a big push recently for audio dramas. And when I say audio dramas, I mean as in stuff that's recorded specifically with audio in mind, rather
like
than books that, like Jedi Lost, rather than books that are then adapted.
Yep.
Incidentally, there was a lot of people, which I found very strange, asking for, when they announced the audio drama of Jedi Lost, a lot of people asking for the book equivalent. I was like, no, that's a weird idea. They're doing a script book.
The script is getting a hardback release.
Yeah, they're doing the script book.
If
that's
you want
different.
the script, then fine. But people want a novelisation of it.
Yeah, that feels like that misses the point so hard.
Yeah, just listen to the audio dramas, guys. It's amazing.
It's really good.
I don't think it would work as a book as well.
No. I can see, like I say, the script book is what it is, right? It makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of it is, a lot of Jedi Lost is in the medium. Yeah. I think. So it's a bit like making an opera of the Mona Lisa. Just go and listen to Jedi Lost.
There's a sitting dejected mail away.
Yeah,
Mona Lisa.
In a vinyl cape.
Yeah. Do you know what?
0 points of articulation.
Somebody could Photoshop that. I'm just going to guarantee it. I'm not asking them to. I'm just saying somebody can in the world.
Who will?
Well, there you go, Skinny. Hopefully that answers your question. And
thanks for writing in. And,
absolutely.
Do so again.
Yeah. So our next two questions, there are two there. I didn't split them out very well on the notes, but there are two. Come from at Pure Genius Lego on Twitter, who you may recognise as Knight of the Commonwealth Matt Salvatore.
I was going to say, it's got a Lego handle. It's got to be Matt.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, there's the only person I know who's kind of, got a creative Lego mindset.
Not being copyright struck by Lego, yeah.
This is it, Yeah. Maybe it's because of the frame rate. Who knows? But Matt writes, firstly, what do you think Kylo was referring to when he said, I will finish what you started? The Jedi were practically extinct, so was he indicating that he would gain total control of the galaxy or that he would balance the Force? Thanks, guys.
Choking his way around all of the Imperial officers.
Ooh. I want to see some choking.
Because I always wondered if Vader had a little bit of a nice spy book of Imperial officers he wanted to choke.
That's wrong, isn't it, that I went straight there? That's not
Kylo Ren choking montage. That's what we need for 280 synth beat. Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, man, if episode 9 now contains Kylo Ren just choking a load of people to a Kenny Loggins montage, you're going to feel awful.
This is true.
I mean, you won't feel awful. You'll feel slightly aroused, but then you'll feel awful.
Yeah, that's pretty much like my experience of Top Gun too.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So,
what was he sort of finish what you started? He has a skewed perspective of Vader. So I think he, on a surface level, is referring to the extermination of the Jedi, the extermination of the light side of the Force, ruling the galaxy in a way he sees fit. I think he's very much bought into fandom Vader as opposed to a Vader that we know.
Yeah.
So I think that's his perspective. Whether that will be given some dramatic irony in episode 9, I think it probably will, but how that will play out remains to be seen.
Something that's always kind of not bugged me, but always kind of just niggled at me slightly about about The Force Awakens.
What sentence was going to end? She always niggled me slightly about you.
No, I wouldn't do that on the air. Come on.
Yeah, well, that's right for my disciplinary.
Exactly, I'm a pro. It's that they've never... I don't think they've done a good enough job of emphasizing the fact that only one person saw Vader redeemed.
I mean, Bloodline did.
Bloodline did a bit, right? Bloodline touched on it, but I feel like Bloodline, much like all of the novels, Bloodline is appealing to a subset of the hardcore fandom, which is already a subset of fandom, right? Now, I realize you understand this, and I realize that listeners understand this to a point as well, but I do feel like it's easily forgotten sometimes by hardcore fans.
Yes.
So stop using that term because I hate that term.
Okay, but I know what you mean.
Yeah,
the sort of fan who listens to a Star Wars podcast.
Super enthusiast fans, like the even more enthusiast than usual, the subset of the subset.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget that is not the broad majority, which is why when I saw an article the other day about the villains they touch on in Thrawn, what's the second one called? Allegiances.
Yeah.
The Grisks, I don't know how you pronounce it. Being a part of episode 9. I'm like, no.
So
many reasons, no. Yeah. Like, now, do you want to sort of set them up as a future villain for a future film? Fine, that's okay. But they're not going to feature in episode 9 in any meaningful way because 1 in every 10 hardcore fans has heard of them.
Yeah.
That's not enough. You can't do that. Like I've argued this. This is the hill I will die on in terms of fandom. There is a real kind of misguided sense that people have. Like I say, it's not all fans, but there's a certain percentage of fans who just can't seem to get hold of this, which is not every fan is as well versed in fandom as they are, and it doesn't make them any less of a fan for it. No,
absolutely no. There's no entrance exam, although was a diplomatic corps entrance exam back in the day.
It's not canon anymore, it's fine.
No, that's fine.
It was hard.
Yeah, there's no entrance. To be a Star Wars fan, all you need to do is love Star Wars. That's it.
Exactly.
That's it. And there's no hurdles to climb. There's no exam or anything. Yeah, there's no hammer to fall. There's nothing. There's no. All right, maybe hammer to fall.
All right, cool.
There's you can just be a Star Wars fan.
Yeah,
and that's okay. I feel like I shouted myself hoarse over the past 6 months of the number of people who seem to think Thrawn or Ezra Bridger are going to play into episode 9 in some capacity, and they just won't, because it would be a massive disservice to fans who just like the movies.
Yeah.
And there almost seems to be a bit of an elitist pride in this. They're going to do that, and it's going to reward inverted commas of people who follow this stuff, and that's never been the way it's worked.
No, indeed,
absolutely not. And if they're not going to use Thrawn, they're absolutely not going to use Grisks, the bad guys from a middle book of a trilogy.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to happen.
No,
and that's okay.
Yeah, read the book, enjoy the book. That's not to say that the supporting materials don't fill out some gaps and enhance your experience of some of the core movies.
Yeah,
that's great. That's brilliant. Like I was saying earlier about how the Obi-Wan comic added some dramatic weight in the last couple of pages to how Obi-Wan changes and feels he's going to become a better master to Anakin. That's great. That adds a little bit to episode 2. But not having read that doesn't detract from episode 2. There's enough of episode 2 detracting from episode 2 as it is. But there's you don't need this stuff. It's and I think Solo kind of led people a bit down the garden path. Like I said, there does seem to be a subset that almost sees it as rewarding the hardcore fans. Yeah. And it's almost like they're getting one over on the casual fans because they have read these books and they know more. And that's just not the way it works.
No, exactly.
And if you want proof that's not how it works, see how many people were confused by Darth Maul turning up in Solo.
There were, I mean, it was like 1 in every 4 people I spoke to.
Yeah, it's. I'm glad they tried it.
Yeah,
I just wish they capitalised it more than anything, to be honest. But as it is, it's just a bit of a weird coda.
I do think it's good in the sense that people who are sufficiently interested will go away and then watch Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And then subsequently Rebels, theoretically.
Hopefully is the idea. But yeah, I kind of hope there had been a second movie or something that would have capitalised on it. But
yeah, it's a risk.
Maybe it may still happen. It may still happen as a Disney Plus thing or whatever.
It could have just been that it was, this is, do you know what? This is the only character that makes sense in this position.
Yeah.
And that might be that simple. It might be that simple. And that's fine. Yeah. And exactly. Yeah. Fresh from his toy run.
That's in Solo.
Leering in backdrop collection. Yeah. What were we talking about? Balancing, finishing what you started. Finishing what you started.
So I kind of feel, there may be kind of a dramatic irony. Like people are saying, "Oh, he's going to be one who finally kills Palpatine," and that would be a dramatic irony. That would work. But at the same time, it seems a bit too obvious.
Yeah. Also, I would be. I've touched on this many, many times on the show. I will start to lose interest in the Disney Star Wars era when they start overwriting and trampling on George's.
I don't think they will.
I don't think they will.
Certainly not intentionally, because certainly J. Abrams and everyone who worked on Force Awakens, for sure, that film was nothing but love and reverence for the original trilogy. That's what that was built on.
Yeah. Last Jedi, I mean, like Ryan Johnson's clearly a fan, right? We know this.
Yeah, but that was slightly less reverential and intentionally so.
Yeah.
But with J. Abrams and with wrapping it up, I don't believe that's what they're going to do. Like you, I will be annoyed if they do. But I have enough confidence in this production team not to do that.
Okay, well, that's good. Hopefully, I have no reason to believe you're wrong, and I hope you're entirely right.
I wish more people would say that.
But yeah, in terms of, I guess my take on finishing what it started, like I say, I think there's a blinkered, there's not enough made of the fact that one person saw Vader redeemed and nobody else can verify it.
Yeah.
And so Kylo could very easily spend his whole life being told by Luke, oh, Vader was redeemed, and then nobody else can verify this. And eventually he's just like, well, hang on. How do I know this is true? And then Snoke gets in his ear and starts to sort of bend his will and kind of steer him around the wrong path.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it's that hard. I feel like they don't, like I say, I don't think they make enough of that in the films.
Yeah.
Because it is one of those things that if they wanted to tie it in now, it's going to be a harder thing to do because they didn't do it earlier. That's that's the best way I can explain it. It's like to use, I know I'm always wary of doing the Harry Potter analogy because I feel like the new films have kind of gone a bit too Harry Potter, like the saber choosing the Jedi and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's like a really good example of what I mean by doing a tiny bit of lifting early to make your life easier later.
Yeah.
Is in The Prisoner of Azkaban, the Marauders map.
Yeah.
There's a reason that Lupin and Sirius Black are so adept at using it. They made it.
Yeah.
But they don't touch on that at all. They don't touch on the fact that the 4 names on the thing are Potter, Black, Lupin, and Pettigrew.
Yes.
And they could. Yeah, obviously, it's a nice little nugget for the fans, like the people who've read the fans who've read the book.
It doesn't fill it out enough.
But later, it would save them storytelling exposition to then touch on the fact that they have knowledge of the Marauders map and they were kind of inseparable friends. It's just, it's one of those little things that wouldn't take more than a line of dialogue to fix either. The map never lies. Well, how do you know that? I made it. Done. It's like, nobody is under any illusion about in Event Horizon, Dr. Weir having designed the gravity drive. Because I built it. Well, I can see why they sent you. Yes, you can.
I watched that the other day.
Oh, I'm jealous. I haven't had a chance to watch it in ages. Yeah. Last thing I watched was the deleted scene. I listened to an excellent breakdown of it by the From Under the Thumb podcast, which I'd hardly recommend. Good bunch of northern lads. Yeah, I mean, lovely chaps. So, yeah, I think he means, dominate the galaxy, bring order to the galaxy, like Anakin was talking about, order to my new empire in Sith. But I don't know. And I would like to see them touch on that a bit more in episode 9. So the second question from Matt this evening, and our final question of the evening. So
we've been going along a while.
Yeah, fair. Hi, Rob and Brad. As always,
Matt and Salvatore.
As always, love the show. Quick question. In the Old Republic, there were Sith troopers that served the Sith Empire. Do you think that Kylo is attempting to bring about the return of the Sith Empire with himself and the Knights of Ren as the new Sith? I know the Old Republic is no longer canon, so is this an example of Lucasfilm using a cool concept from the larger Star Wars universe, or do you think this has a larger connection to Kylo's motives within Episode 9? Or do these Sith troopers report directly to the Emperor himself? I would personally love to see these guys turn out to be the 501st Attack Battalion, Jango clones. So he sent over a picture of the Old Republic Sith Trooper. I didn't actually attach it.
The silver armored
in Lego.
Okay.
They do have some red, but they tend to look more like Vader. Thanks, guys. Cheers to a great podcast. Well, cheers to you too, Matt.
Yes.
Who do you think, the kind of gist of the question, I suppose, is who do you think the Sith Troopers serve?
I mean, I'm not convinced they're going to even be referred to as Sith Troopers in the movie. I wonder if it's a marketing action figure name.
I mean, that would make some sense. I mean, I've definitely seen that happen before. where, you know, things turn up in, they have it like Walrus Man, you know, he has a name in the universe, but at the same time, he also has a descriptor that is just as useful. And it strikes me that the post New Hope Walrus Man is in the Sitting Dejected collection.
Yeah, absolutely should be.
Probably having some help to get into the chair, but
I mean, we've got no real canon sources for what the Sith Empire was like, do we?
No, not really.
References in Jedi Lost.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, there's the Terranta Tech is like the big tie-in to that book, isn't it?
I think in the Darth Maul miniseries, there's some reference to a Sith planet that was laid waste by the Jedi, but you don't know how much of that is Sidious being misleading, because
he does
kind of what he does.
He's a wrong, isn't he, for that?
Well, yeah, it's from a certain point of view.
I suppose so.
Is Kylo Ren attempting to bring about the revenge of the Sith with himself and the Knights of Ren as the new Sith? So why aren't they called Ren troopers?
I don't know.
There's a lot of incongruity here.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe that's the reason. Maybe his kind of, you know, Snoke obviously in the Force Awakens gives him a bit of stick for the name, the Knights of Ren, because it's almost like in his voice there's a sort of mocking tone of like, Master of the Knights of Ren. Oh, check you out.
Oh, look at you, tallest man in Lilliput.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but then I wonder if maybe he's named them for that kind of Sith-esque order of, you know, order of magnitude.
He certainly in Force Awakens, he was portrayed as being a bit of a Sith fanboy, wasn't he?
Yeah, for sure.
Almost like a Massage Ventress type of take on it. It was always, I think she was initially conceived as a Sith groupie. Mm-hmm. And there's a little bit of that with Kylo Ren as well.
There's a tiny bit of that, I think, with the Inquisitors certainly in the Darth Vader Charles Soule comics.
That's a big gap for me, but I really want to see filled, is explaining how the Inquisitors fit into the Empire.
Yeah. So there's kind of like, my understanding of it so far, of like the bits I've read of the Inquisitors in the Soule comics, is they're not Sith, and they're kind of held at arm's length. Yeah, they're held at arm's length in that regard. Mm-hmm. And there's actually points where, you know, Vader kind of uses it as almost like a put down of the Grand Inquisitor. So I wonder if in the same way, you know, they've got their sort of cool name, we're the Inquisitors, and then Vader's like, yeah, but you're not that important.
Yeah. Ooh, look at me.
Yeah, maybe Kylo's Knights of Ren is the same sort of thing, where it's like, we're the Knights of Ren, and Snoke's going like, yeah, but you've got no actual power.
Yeah.
You're Kylo Ren, my right-hand man. Mm-hmm. And actually, you know, I'm going to make a point pretty much constantly of reminding you that Hux is nipping at your heels constantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, I mean, deservedly so. He's excellent. But I think that's how I see the Knights of Ren. Kind of the more I think about it, is that sort of Kylo sees them as a big deal.
Mm.
Like, you know, they're this cool named. Everybody's got their own uniform. Everybody's got this kind of cool aesthetic to them. But to everybody else, they're a bit of a, you know, not a joke, not so much, not as strong as a joke, but they're a bit of a, you know, they're seen as a bit of a. There's certainly the name is a bit of a triviality. It's not a nobody takes it seriously in the traditional sense.
Yeah.
So could he use that as kind of a new Sith thing? Totally. I think that's entirely plausible and actually quite probable.
Yeah.
I think if he's such a, you know, I think they're going to go back to playing on the Vader group, the Vader enthusiast stuff in 9, because it's Abrams again, and because I feel like they've probably taken the criticism to heart that there wasn't enough of that in Last Jedi. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because actually he kind of, it felt like he was kind of distancing himself from that look by, you know, smashing the masterpieces. But obviously in the teaser, we've seen the mask being reassembled. So we know somebody is putting that mask back together. Now, whether that's for Kylo or for somebody else, I would be inclined to think it would be very unlikely it's anybody but him. Mm-hmm. But I've been wrong before. Sometimes it's on radio. But that's kind of how I see it right now.
Yeah.
He's going to revert back to that kind of Vader enthusiast character in a bit more, not to like a, you know, an anorak level, but to the degree of they're going to go back to playing on that whole, he's a sort of a fanboy of Vader's from back in the day. and that's kind of going to inform his character quite extensively, I think.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take?
Yeah, I pretty much agree, to be honest.
Nice.
Which doesn't happen very often. But,
that's good. It's a time saver.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still on the back foot about exactly how much Palpatine's going to be involved in this film.
I don't think it's going to be, I think if you get the Sith troopers kind of serving Palpatine, it's going to be via one. I really want those Wraiths to come back. They're so cool.
Yeah, I know you're a fan. Yeah.
I'm a Wraith fan. They are so cool. Yeah. I just want them to be. If there's a Sith trooper unit that's kind of guarding the last one of those, that'd be kind of cool. Because then it's like the last vestiges of the Sith reside in the sort of the memory, like the memory of that droid.
Yeah, that would be nice.
And maybe that's the MacGuffin. Yeah. Maybe there's something in those droids about maybe like you say, we talked about it before we recorded about the Jakku Observatory. Oh no, we talked about it during the recording. My bad. About the Jakku Observatory and the maps of the unknown regions, the sheets of black paper on the wall. Maybe maybe in those droids resides the only copy, something like that.
Yeah, I have a theory on what the MacGuffin is. But
okay, any? Do you wish to share, or do you want to hold off?
I can put it out there if you're interested. Yeah. I think, bear in mind that we've seen a vast attraction to Anakin's lightsaber. In 7 and 8. And it's established Palpatine's in this in some capacity, and we're going to the second Death Star. I reckon Palpatine's lightsaber is a MacGuffin.
Oh, okay, interesting. But he hasn't. I suppose they don't just because they don't show him having it on the second Death Star.
It was always hidden, wasn't it? It was in his desk or in his chair.
Yeah, that would be great if he realizes as he sits down and Luke comes in, he goes, "Oh. I left it in my credenza."
Just because you want another dejected sitting figure, that's what
I do. The episode 9 Palpatine with I left my lightsaber in my credenza action.
Sitting down too quick and squashing himself action.
Oh, that's going to sting in the morning. He's talking about the light side. It's all I can think about.
It's popped up.
I've lost the other one. Oh, no, there it is. Yeah, so, I mean, MacGuffins, Palpatine's errant testicles notwithstanding.
There's your episode title.
Well, I'm not sure what Apple's rules are on testicles. There's a sentence I didn't think I'd say this morning.
Such is the episode we're in.
Indeed, yeah. My sense of the MacGuffin is it's going to be something informational rather than a physical object embodiment. I think it's going to be something like he's got,
location of the third Death Star.
Well, yeah, I mean, why not, right? Starkiller Base 2 Electric Boogaloo. I don't know, but my sense is it's going to be something more like knowledge is going to be his treasure, but not like an Indiana Jones 4 way.
Yeah,
ideally, because obviously we don't have Harrison Ford to throw in a fridge.
Not yet.
Although, I mean, that would preserve him after. Never mind. I think I get the sense it's going to be more like knowledge of some sort that's going to be the prize, and I think he's going to be. He's definitely. I don't think he's in it corporeally. I think if Ian McDiarmid appears on screen, it is in some form of flashback or a holocron or something along those lines. I don't think it's him in the same time periods as the characters we're seeing in this film.
So, yeah, I mean, some people are saying Force goes Palpatine, and for me, that isn't the whole point of the Sith is being able to extend life indefinitely is what they're kind of chasing after.
Yeah, they're
if they can do the Force Ghost thing, then where's that drive?
I see.
That's why I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't see that working, and part of the reason is for the same reason you kind of outlined. It's just the whole thing of the Sith is like that's kind of their point, isn't it? They're so fixated on preserving the physical life that they miss the bigger picture that there's another way of doing it.
Yes,
there's
exactly.
another way of there's a way of living eternally that doesn't require your corporeal form, and they miss the forest for the trees.
Spot on.
Yeah, but so if they start then going, oh no, Sith can do it too, they just choose not to. It's like, hang on,
Yeah,
what?
It's been.
Yeah, it's like Luke using lightning in Episode 8. It's just like, well, hang on.
That was Yoda's thing, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I suppose he did. But, he was kind of more... But that, again, that's another one that just raises more questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yoda manipulating the weather. Just like, hang on, why, what? Like, why doesn't
I didn't
Obi-Wan
mind
just...
it because if any Jedi is powerful enough to do that, it should be Yoda.
Yeah, if anybody can, it should be him. This is true.
Yeah.
But then that does kind of...
It's not like Ki-Adi-Mundi popped up.
No, it's true, yeah. I'm done with my dejected sitting. I want to know about the droid attack on the Wookiees.
And now I'm done with dejected sitting. Now it's time for some dejected sitting.
I like the notion that if you look closely in Solo, when the Wookiees are beating up robots, you see Ki-Adi-Mundi just lean in and just nod like approvingly. Yeah.
If it isn't a meme, it should be.
I know, right? This is it. So, yeah, I could sort of, the most I could see them doing with the Sith troopers in regards to Palpatine is like, maybe, like I say, just because I want those wraiths back so bad.
Mm-hmm. A retinue of some kind, maybe.
Yeah, something that, a group of holdout troopers that are just kind of haven't got with the times and accepted, like Inferno Squadron for the first few levels of Battlefront 2.
Yep.
That sort of level of like, no, he's still around, he's still there, he's still powerful, he's still got influence. He's coming back, guys. You just watch. He's coming back. He's going to be right here any second now. You're going to be right here, and then it's going to be cool, and then you're going to be like, what? And he's going to be like, yeah, Palpatine. And then it's like a robot chicken sketch now.
It really is.
Yeah, but that's kind of, if they serve Palpatine, that's the only form I can see it working in. I think it's far more likely that Kylo's going for that kind of, Darth Vader tribute band look, but the good kind of tribute band, the ones that actually,
once they look the part.
Ones that look the part and sound good enough that you don't really care. It doesn't sound quite right.
Yeah. Not like that time I saw an Abbott tribute band. The first thing to strike me was there was 5 of them.
That's not a great start, is it?
No.
Yeah. I remember once I went to see a Queen tribute band that were really good, but the lead singer looked like my granddad and not Freddie Mercury. And I was like, no, this is not... I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of my granddad, but Freddie Mercury he ain't.
Yeah.
Not in the slightest resemblance at all. In fact, if you were to put like a list of the people who look the least like Freddie Mercury on a wall, he'd be somewhere in the top half.
Oh wow, that bad?
Yeah, totally. I mean, like, imagine
a small Hispanic woman.
Yeah. No, Queen. So, Matt, hopefully that answers your question. Thank you for writing in. Thank you to everybody who has taken the time to write in this week.
Yes, thanks for taking up the challenge.
Yeah, thank you to...
Do it again next week.
Yeah, thank you to a slightly lesser degree to those who shared it round and got people to, encourage people to chip in. That is always appreciated, although people writing in is more appreciated because, we can actually work with that
We
more.
appreciate the signal boost.
Exactly, signal boost is nice, but engagement is what we crave.
Yeah, you can do both.
Exactly. And the way to do that, the easiest way...
What's the easiest way, Rob?
Well, the easiest way is you can interact with us on social media and emails.
That's what I do.
Exactly. So you can do that on by emailing podcast@emotionally14.com. Put Talk Star Wars somewhere in the subject line or in the body. That's obviously a nice way of doing it. Or just make the question about Star Wars. That's also a good way of filtering.
Yeah. It might end up on a crazy train, but,
such as
subscribe
life.
to that as well.
Yeah, stranger things have happened. Season 3's just come out, in fact.
Yeah.
You can also interact with Talk Star Wars on social media via Twitter. You can interact with Talk Star Wars at Talk Star Wars, Emotionally14 at Emotionally14. Instagram are the same addresses. There's Facebook pages for both. Discord, I mean, there is, but it's a ghost town.
Slack?
No, that's more of an office thing.
Vero?
I don't even know what that is.
Okay. Is that all of them now?
Patreon. We got Patreon. Vine is gone.
Oh, okay.
Which is a shame because there's some fun stuff on there.
Yeah.
Bebo's long, I mean, cold in the ground by now.
Okay, fine.
Spinning like a rotisserie chicken at the way the world's become.
That's just for Big Three, really, isn't it?
Yeah. We're on Patreon, though.
2 of which are owned by Facebook.
Yeah, true. We're on Patreon, though, if you want to...
oh, cool.
If you want to support us to the degree of contributing to running costs. That's always appreciated.
Absolutely.
You can do so at patreon.com/talkstarwars. In return for doing so, you will receive a link to an ad-free version of the feed. Now, we do try and make the non-Patreon version as unintrusive as possible when it comes to ads, but at the same time, obviously, Papa got to eat. And
which is why we tend to keep it as an advert at the beginning, an advert at the end, and sometimes an advert 11 seconds into the episode.
I've managed to figure out what's causing that now. I fixed it.
It wasn't just you doing it. I noticed it on a few podcasts. I was like,
I know exactly what the problem is. So actually, for those listening who are on Spreaker, I might as well do my due diligence here. If you don't put a mid-roll in, it will throw one in. So if you want to put a mid-roll in, put it in at the end.
Okay.
This is what I do. This is fix the problem.
Okay.
So there you go. So that's the more you know, right?
Yeah.
And knowing is half the battle.
Yeah.
So as I say,
the other half is violence.
If for some reason you want to listen to the show without ads, but as I say, I do my best to make them unintrusive, then you can do so at patreon.com/talkstarwars, and it costs as little as $1 a month or whatever you care to give.
Bargain.
It's totally 25 cents a week. You're laughing, aren't you? And sometimes you get 2 shows. Madness. Nothing about madness, though.
So far.
Yeah, well, strange things again.
Yeah, Series 4, yeah.
Yeah, eventually, I'm sure. Social media, we've done those. Patreon. Social media for you. What's that?
Well, if you can't get enough of, what is it? What's all that about? Cool. If you can't get enough of me talking Star Wars on one show, then you can always check out Fire When Ready: Adventures in Star Wars Tabletop Gaming, where I talk about Star Wars Legion, Star Wars Armada, Star Wars Rebellion, Star Wars Outer Rim, and probably very soon another Star Wars game. As soon as Gen Con's over, they'll drop something out. You can watch all of those on Emotionally 14's YouTube channel, and of course you can find them directly on emotionally14.com, and you can catch some odd episodes on the relevant game entries on boardgamegeek.com. If you want to follow me on Facebook, then you can follow the show on Facebook and Instagram at FirewhenReadyUK. If you want to follow me specifically, you can be my friend on Facebook at facebook.com/BradHarmerBarnes. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RealBradHB. I am on Discord, but I don't understand how it works. It's basically like shouting into an empty room. I'm told that Bebo no longer exists. I'm not convinced I was ever on it in the first place. And you can, of course, buy my books on Audible and Amazon.
Yes, you can. And you can do so on emotionally14.com. Underneath your name on the Team E14 page, there's a link. You can do that.
We make it so easy for people.
I know. And there's actually a link. Every time there's a Talk Star Wars episode, it has a link in the episode notes, in the episode blurb at the bottom. I know. I'm quite good at this stuff, it turns out.
I know.
Who knew?
How long have you been doing it for? 10 years?
Yeah, something like that. It turns out I'm quite good at it. Who knew? But
that's why it's your job.
Well, quite. So if you want to interact with me on social media, then you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at RobWadeVision. I tend to be more active on Twitter than Instagram, although most of it recently has been customer service complaints. I do occasionally tweet about other stuff. And also, if you're interacting with Emotionally 14 or Talk Star Wars on social media, there's a strong chance that it's me behind the account you're talking to.
If it's not you, who is it?
It's been hacked.
Oh, okay. Fine. Yeah. I was just trying to work out what the strong chance was rather than the certainty.
Yeah, it's
who? Did you give Brian the passwords? What do you think?
Yeah, it's basically Who is it if it's not you? I use terribly easy to guess passwords.
Yes. So, Carl's gotten loose. Someone stop him.
So
he's abducting.
So Talk Star Wars represents Emotionally 14 in the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network as well. And there are 8 fantastic outfits in there, some of which are cross-pollinated across Emotionally 14 as a whole, but also all representing the Commonwealth. So in addition to Talk Star Wars, we also are joined by the Tumbling Saber, Generation X-Wing, the Nerd Room, Rogue Squadron, the San Diego Sabres, Retro Inc., and the Sandcrawler Cast. 8 excellent podcast outfits.
Many of whom to Sandcrawler Cast only yesterday.
Well, nice. Many of the shows, many of the outlets publish multiple shows. So I reckon there is
much stuff.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much. Like it's not even funny. So yeah, it's great. There's so much stuff between Emotionally 14 and the Star Wars Commonwealth. It is just a big collection of wonderful content, video, audio, written across multiple websites. The place to see all the Commonwealth stuff is StarWarsCommonwealth.com, and from there you can take your first steps into a much larger world. That's it for this week of Talk Star Wars. We will see you next week for episode 179. Keep the questions coming in, because this was fun. And hopefully you've enjoyed it as much as we have. Until next week, thank you for listening to Talk Star Wars. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and as always, may the Force be with you.